Всем привет!
Hi, everyone.
На самом деле очень круто, что
Actually, it's really cool that so many more people arrived
наверное, никогда не
the year after the first
прикасался к чему-то
presentation, and
такому,
that
что может скоро стать легендой. Вот, мы
keeping an eye on our product
самая
so
рекламная
closely.
плаценка на рынке.
I think I've never
Совершенно у кого-то
touched
занижена, у нас
upon
прям
something that is so likely
надеюсь,
to
в
be
течение
legend.
сегодняшнего
We
нашего
believe
рассказа
that we
поймете,
have the
почему
most
это
adequate
так.
self-assessment market. Somebody hasn't elevated or diminished.
Покажем просто,
In our opinion, we're spot on. We're not trying to paint things, with something else. We'll just share what it is. And today we'll tell you how this year passed. Pavel Zhivov will be helping
Давайте Пашу поприветствуем. Паша
me
эксперт
in my
нашего
presentation.
продукта.
Pavel, will you please come up on stage? Let's welcome Pasha. Pasha is an expert on our product, and with that Pasha's experience and that of our entire team,
много лет работал с продуктами других вендоров.
you won't be able to understand it in full. Let's recall why we decided to build a next-generation firewall, even though products from other vendors existed in the market. Firstly, because our overarching goal at Positive is to get to the higher level protectedness and security. This whole story is based on a niche product. So next general firewall is one of such products. So three foreign vendors mentioned here were there, and we were not addressing this task because we knew we could rely on them. But then you know what happened. So two of these products are no longer available in Russia. One is still there, but we can't be sure that they will. So we had to do something ourselves because we couldn't find in the Russian market anyone who had a product comparable to what the Western vendors were offering. I personally spent 6 months, about 6 months, to see if there's
На тот момент на рынке было продуктов 16, по-моему.
any product that had a potential to offer the same kind of functionality. At that time, there were about 16 products like that, but we didn't find anything that fit our requirements, and we understood that we had to do something else. So in September 22, we started this work, and it took us 7 months to present a product as the previous PH days. The performance was 40 gigabits, 10 gigabits in the decoding of TLS traffic. We had a hierarchic management system. We understood that we couldn't run it on some specialized hardware because
То есть мы работаем вообще на любом x86, который хоть как-то
hard to find, there's nowhere to have it made. So we now run any commodity x86 with as few cores as you can put your hand on. But we were supporting it in protocols, and we were showing how we handle traffic. A lot of people who didn't like us were telling us, look, a lot of functionality is missing. You're going to add them, your performance will go down, and you'll get the same kind of product as we do. But we knew at that time that a lot had not been done and optimized by that time. And every time as we were adding new functionality, our performance was growing. And even today's numbers are not final. It's just the beginning, and it's going to be cooler and cooler looking forward. So what's been done up until now, as of now, we already have a cluster. This perhaps is one of the key things without which a firewall is unusable. We were saying that the most important thing about the firewall that it should be in time to keep up with the internet, providing the speed, and also so that it should be resilient.
Отказоустойчивость — это ключевое.
It should always be available. It's not just a product that's fit on the side. So fault tolerance is the key thing. So we had all the things that you can see the slide, but everything in its order will go from functionality to functionality. So today's numbers in the firewall. mode. 100,000 rules. We can take 160 gigabits with 2.5 million, 13 million sessions all told. And these are the numbers with 30% utilization of the server. While we can do more, we now get some limitations with the PCI and the card, but so the potential is higher. But even now, it's over the top. It's much better than our Western competitors are showing. But this is the mode where security is not enabled. That, of course, should be enabled. So when we enable it, we get numbers 60 gigabits plus, with everything enabled. 10,000 signatures that our guys are developing, profiles, the traffic pipeline, IPS implemented. So this is the way the product is de facto tested in Western vendors. A little about signatures. You can select such signatures. By the way, I've heard criticism that we're synthetically selecting signatures. No, we don't do that. So our signatures are the most true to life as possible. We have a lot of experts that keep an eye on what's happening every day, introducing the data to the database. We have several products feeding on the same knowledge, including the sandbox and discovery. And they said we're showing this kind of performance. 10,000 select rules and for the sanctions, we were number 2 in Europe for the number of rules contributed to the European open source. So these are super cool rules that we sell actually as a separate product, so other vendors can use these rules. And of course, we use them. We use these rules ourselves. So, actually, this is perhaps one of the biggest news that's going to come next. In order to make next generation firewall, we had to become a hardware vendor. This is the way our boxes look in design. They are small hardware boxes that we designed, and it was very important for us that they looked beautifully. Some people are only interested in performance, but we also wanted to have great them to have great looks. So Oleg, please help me. So there are 2 boxes here. Can you close up on this one? Yes. This is the box that's already running in production. Maybe it doesn't look like the picture exactly, and let me explain why.
Корпус дает 60 баллов. То есть вот благодаря корпусу можно получить 60 баллов.
That according to the Russian requirements, the box offers 60 points. So if you have a Russian-made box, it gives you 60% of guarantees that are included in the domestically built products. So this was version 1, and this is version 2. So it's just the case, but you can see that it even looks a bit better. Quite soon, in a couple of weeks, it's going to be ready for production, and we'll bring it to the looks that you've seen on the slides. We believe industrial design is a very important thing.
Если вам понравилось, похлопайте, что ли.
If you liked it, why don't you give us a round of applause? We've been trying hard to please you.
Железка побольше, выглядит у нас примерно.
So the box that's larger looks like this. It's version 1
Она есть в пресс-ловах,
that we have.
Ее можно подойти и потрогать.
It's available in the pre-sale room for you to see. You can come and get some hand-on. It should be flying, as they told me. Well, I'm hoping it's not going to fly away when we install it. And there's still some work to do on the design. But the most important thing is that it's a new Xeon Engine 4. In Russia, there's nobody else who have this equipment. Most of them who are doing something doing it following our requirements. So they're still working on that, but we already have the product. So we designed the development, and this hardware is being now produced in Russian plants according to our design. A few words about the specs. We have this super small box that I showed you. It doesn't even have a cooler. It's cooled passively. So in the firewall, it works faster than 5 gigabit per second. This is the example. And when we've got everything enabled, it now runs at about 900 megabits. The numbers are here. So this box is intended for maybe fueling stations, small offices, but it's quite enough for small. Actually, it's quite a powerful thing. There's 8 on there, 4-core, 16 gig memory, and we see that this box covers a huge portion of the addressable market. If you want to have a more powerful box for the server room, we have the next piece of hardware. It has active cooling, 16 cores, and it shows even higher performance with same kind of production of manufacturing design, industrial design. And our top box, there are several. There's a whole range. I'm showing you the largest one, which covers 160 gigabits per second. It's on Axiom, and it can offer this.
And obviously we will start with these new boxes basically the next month. And now I would like to touch on a little bit spicy, let's say, problem. We do know that we have a lot of hardware from foreign vendors, and there is a single vendor that used this approach. I think you know this company. It's from Israel, and we decided if we are daring, we just installed our firewall on that hardware and we saw the speed. So according to the same rules, for the same hardware, we were able to achieve 4.5 times faster using the same core. And we used the methodology of that vendor. Here are the real numbers. And we do understand that Israel vendor have a few number of nuclei. We have more nuclei. And if we compare the same form factor, then ours will be 10 times faster. We believe that this is potentially a very good success story. We know why this happened, because Checkpoint did it 10 years ago, we do it now, we do it from scratch, we know how to improve x86 processes and do it faster. If they started from scratch and spent maybe 2 years, they might have been better and faster. That since they did it 10 years ago, now the picture is reversed. And that's why I believe that our product is not just good for export, other countries are actually interested in this. Obviously, we start with Russia and we will first work in Russia. We do understand that our product is not just hardware, is not just software. It's the whole comprehensive cycle around it. It's technical support, it's maintenance, it's replacement of hardware. We already worked on this service to provide the highest top-notch quality. And we already have these vendors and subcontractors who will change hardware in 24 hours. We already have the necessary support and we are ready to scale up. What would I want to talk about the product itself? Here it was just the forward. Do we start with standoff or with the cluster? I think we wanted to start with the standoff and talk about the real cases where we used our technology. Okay, let's start with standoff. Just give a brief explanation. On standoff, we have a cyber tries, cyber drills, and basically cyber warfare. And within this contest, we always use some kind of Western firewall that would delineate access between red team and blue team. There are certain rules that we follow in order to not to block attacks, so that the game would have been interesting. So we all follow these rules just like it was before. And now I would like to show you interface, a real interface, like right here, right now, how our firewall works. For you to understand, it uses a single nucleus, virtual machine, and all the red teams, blue teams use this firewall. So let us change the screen to that notebook, and Pavel will show you the interface. Yes, just like Denis mentioned, we use the same traffic that goes between red teams and blue teams. Well, what I mean, red teams and the virtual city that they attack. Here we see a number of rules based on the network infrastructure. We have an IPS profile for each of the rules so that we can monitor in real time. And we can see the number of times it was accessed during the game and how many times it was processed, and we can actually measure the activity of each of the teams and measure how many data was attacked in the infrastructure of the virtual city. And the infrastructure itself, as far as I know, there are about 100 servers, those servers where they go first. And you can use the statistics, which you can see here on the screen, and try to get some idea of what kind of actions they took. And you can actually see that during the first days they had mass scans. And you can see here on the screen what was the maximum bandwidth for the firewall, how many sessions per second. It was about, here you can see the peak, 200 megabit per second. Here are the peaks. Well, I will not zoom in because I just want to change to a different graph. It's the number of connections per second. And for firewall, oftentimes it's a more critical metric compared to just bandwidth. And here we can see that with a single nucleus, we had about 360,000 connections per second. Thus, firewall was on during that time and was processing this information and connections. And now let's change the results. Let's check the logs. Okay, according to the traffic, we can see that our guys were trying different activities in order to get through the defense. But I think, we need to mention that according to the rules of the game, firewall cannot decipher anything, because if they decipher, they will provide some unfair advantage. So there are some unknown protocols, and obviously some part of traffic is not concealed by we do not disclose it, yes, just for the sake of the game. If we analyze the protocols which we can see here, we will be able to find different HTTP traffic, MySQL traffic, Postgres traffic, and so on. But obviously there is some anonymization for some sessions, for custom sessions, because of the scripts from the hacker teams. And what's interesting to see here in terms of IPS, let's take a look on what we have from attacks that have a high level of alert. And here you can see these different utilities, like tools like Pomcat. I think the guys already got the access to the hosts and analyzed some data there. Here we can see Cobalt Strike. It's a famous framework for post-exploitation. And if we take a look at the whole log of the attacks, not just high, not just low, we just take a look at other attacks. Here we can see that the system gives us options from what it already found. You don't really need to know them by heart. We can just take a look at this drop-down menu and analyze what kind of events were grouped and aggregated by the system. Obviously, we have different scans. We can see log4j and different utilities, nmap, and so on. Basically, anything we like. Regarding the other stands on the standoff, yes, let's get back to our slides. Here on the slide you can see a picture that tells you the structure of the whole infrastructure in our office. Obviously we use our products for ourselves, and we will show you, we'll demonstrate how we do so. We have a stand 308, and if you visited our office, you understand how it looks like. We have the classical approach. We gave the best servers to our clients, and we have the rest. Basically, very old hardware. Somebody wanted to throw away this hardware, but we actually installed our product on this. So we still use this, and we choose two test machines, one with Windows, the other with Linux. For Windows, we will have a call soon, and for Linux machine, we will download a file. And to do so, we will try to call our administrator who works there. He's not an actor, he is a real actor. Oh, he's a real person, he's not just an actor. He said that he should clean up the server room, and we told him, well, it's okay, it should be clean enough. So let us draw our attention to Sergey. Sergey, hello?
А ты нас слышишь? О, отлично, связь.
Hello, everyone. Yes, we can hear you.
Так, надо подумать, как мы все это будем показывать.
Sergey, we need to know how do we show this. Pavel, tell us about the tests we will display. So let us know this from the laptop, and maybe we can demonstrate the whole setups, how will we demonstrate our robustness of our product. Like Denis mentioned, we have two test machines in our cluster. One of them has a video call, and you can see what the machine can see. I accessed it from my laptop. Yes, so we will work together so that everybody can see. Yes, you can see me waving into the camera. And this is what the client sitting and using this virtual machine would see. So why do we do this? And the reason is that we want to double check what would happen when our cluster would be shut down. Together with this, at the same time, we launched an VR Shark because we want to capture packages and to demonstrate how they are captured. We didn't really go deeper into the hardware. We will just tell you about the work, how it works, how the cluster works. As you can see on the scheme, we have a Linux machine together with the Windows machine, and on the Linux we will download the file. Here you can see it on the screen. We are now downloading the file. And at the same time, we will ping. So why do we do this? In order to measure the amount of losses. But for this screen to be a little bit more beautiful, we will, yes, let's say that at the top we've run everything, and every time that a package gets there, they will give us a line. And now we have only cases when packages didn't arrive, so we will only see losses. And ping protocols use ISMP. This is used a different protocol, but it doesn't really matter if you don't care. But the point is that these packages can be lost, it's okay. And TCP packages usually are sent because the session is trustworthy. There are mechanisms to send packages. So some number of packages is acceptable. The question is how often it will roll back to the normal state. Yes, this is correct. Here we've connected our setup to the monitoring system, and you can see the download here on the screen on one of the firewalls. We have one directly above the other so that we can see when the switch happens. Here we have the active R600 device, which is active, and we will use this device and just to switch it off. Sergey, and now it's your time. Enter the Sergey. And you will see the server rack where it actually works. And did you have enough time to clean up? No, I actually didn't have enough time. We have it as it is. Yes, this is the real server rack. Here you can see the green box. It actually had a firewall, but it didn't really work very well. Now we changed and fixed it.
Ну и вот та большая тоже, вот одна сверху лежит, а другая перпендикулярно. Вот это...
And you can see multiple boxes. You can see two servers, one on the top and one at the bottom. We will have to switch off server 600. It's active at the moment, and we will turn it off. Okay, we switch it off. Plug it out. Yes, you can see the 230 volts, and we plug off the server 600. And that's all. As you can see the video, you saw what happened on the screen. The conference froze. We've lost 3 packages, about 1.5 seconds. And now let's see what happened to our file. It continues to be downloaded. And what we can see here, we can see the switch from one firewall to the other.
Спасибо большое. Нам прям очень приятно.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great pleasure because this is what we decided to do for. This is the reason why we wanted to do this. Sergey, thank you very much, and let us bid farewell to Sergey. Thank you for your help. Very beautiful, colorful boxes. And now let us talk about the next point. Let us go back to the presentation and draw our attention to slides. So what else did we want to tell you? Now we have a lot more in the interface. If we go through each of these bullet points, it will take a lot of time. And we have pre-sale rooms, we have other rooms, you can get there, you can get all the necessary information. Still, we want to use the opportunity and talk about the most interesting parts of our products. This is what we are really proud of. We will move on to the interface. We will demonstrate you IPS profile, GIP, NET, and yes, I believe we demonstrated everything else. If you are interested, we can show you this functionality in pre-sale room, and now we'll care about NET, GOP, and profiles. Now we change to Pavel's notebook or laptop, and we will see this presentation. So starting with IPS, we already demonstrated it during standoff, and I thought, well, how much time did it go from the time we demonstrated it? It was barely 5 months, and it was maybe even 4 months, a little bit more, because we had a lot of holidays, and it wasn't that much, but for us, it was a very interesting case, and we applied a lot of efforts. So, going back to the IPS profiles, why did we start with standoff? We demonstrated that it catches attacks. But IPS alone isn't enough. We do understand this pain point when administrator needs to have different granular rules for IPS and IPS to act, what should be blocked, what should not be blocked, that the policy should be flexible. And that's why we decided to solve this pain point. And that's why we created an IPS profile. So how does it work? There is a security policy which is set by an administrator. But there are certain policies where you have to allow, you don't just allow traffic. We want to double check the traffic, that there are no attacks in this traffic, there are no malware in this traffic. And in these kind of policies, you can have a certain profile which defines how to check for this specific traffic that comes for this specific policy, how IPS should behave, what should be blocked, what should not be blocked. Now we can change all vulnerabilities profile, and next let's see what those profiles look like. Everything regarding IPS, we've moved to objects. We will also have signatures where administrators could control from a single console and see what worked and what didn't work, get all the details. And here we can see 3 profiles. Obviously, we've set their own vulnerabilities, and it's clear, it's self-explanatory. It tries to find all the vulnerabilities and try to fix them, cure them in our infrastructure. But for custom apps, for example, administrator can set according to what they need. Or obviously, admins can change settings for different profiles, and they can name them differently, and they can add groups. And groups signatures define the number of signatures and what to do with those signatures. The groups themselves are nearby, you can see them here. Several groups were created for a test, for example, VPN group, and I've placed several signatures there for a VPN traffic. And I allowed this group. If we place this group to IPS profile, then for it, IPS wouldn't do anything. It will just allow it because this is what administrator asked it to do. Here, in the profiles, we set different exceptions. Well, the reason is that we have false positives, false negatives, we don't understand that. And you can have different settings, you can have different exceptions in terms of actions and in terms of how it's logged. Because there could be situations when something is blocked, but you have too much noise and you just have to shut off logging. Or maybe when we are monitoring, we just allow it to pass, and this is what we do on standoff. We had the signatures set like this, everything was allowed, everything was locked, and we were able to see that thanks to these kind of mechanisms, we were able to see it in the logs. Next, what else did we do? The next profile, we already finished with the IPS, now we have specific policies. We implemented this using policies, no checkboxes, nothing else that should be translated, should be broadcasted, nothing else. We just have a specific policy. And you set up this policy, what kind of traffic should be broadcast, should be passed, and what traffic should be blocked. And then you also specify the way it should be passed. Here we can see source from NAT. Obviously the destinations will be the same, we will work with destinations, and then we decide where it should go to address pool, to interfaces, and so on. At the same time, we worked with the broadcasts of the source, because not always it's possible, but sometimes it's very important. This is a rare case scenario, because the source usually defines it dynamically, but if you do not have there are some services which are static, and sometimes admins need to change ports one to another. And we decided to do this both dynamic and for static approaches. And NAT policies are defined in parallel with security policies. So if you have an NAT, NAT policy, then administrators should understand that this traffic is not allowed by default. The reason is that traffic that was passed, we have different applications in them, and probably an administrator would need to block some applications and allow other applications. Then they add this security policy that would describe in details what should be done with this traffic after it was broadcast. And finally, point number 3, which we want to show, is working with GeoIP objects, with domain objects. We placed all of them in addresses, because they are part of an address. For GeoIP, here you can see a list of all the countries and regions which we have in our database. And let's see where they are in security policies. And here in QDN, obviously, this is some kind of domain. It could be RooTube, it could be anything else. RooTube.ru, for example. And here we need to give it the name. Well, we will not go here, we will not go in details, but still the security policy. In address objects, yes, we can see them here, GeoIP. We can block Afghanistan region, and we can block vk.com, for example. We can always block or unblock different regions. And here we work with addresses with Kontakte and Afghanistan. Okay, thank you very much. Let us go back to the slides of the presentation, and we will discuss. Well, last year, what did we do last year? We thought, and we were making some kind of product which our customers really needed, but we saw some hopelessness in their eyes. They didn't really care what kind of box they would need to invest and buy. Blue box, green box, orange box, doesn't really care. And we wanted to show our progress, what we were able to do, but oftentimes we heard, when you work with real traffic, you will have real problems. And I say, yes, it will be. The question is that we did not have any critical problems. All the details were fixed.
Дорожная карта.
A few words about the future roadmap. What we still need to do, what we do not have in the current version, what we are telling you right now. So we have some version of ICAP, but not the version which we need. ICAP means the integration with sandboxes, with outer antiviruses. It doesn't really work properly right now. It will be in November. Have some version, but it's not exactly the same. And the same for the current antivirus. We try to work with the stream antivirus with vendors, and we got about 20% of quality. Clearly, you know how to bypass this kind of stream antivirus, but there is a requirement that it should be. So we tried top vendors who tell us that they create these antiviruses. We created our own antivirus, and it means that there is no difference. Because when you work in the stream, when you have exchanged files all the time, this is very difficult compared to the normal antivirus. So we need to understand how it's different from our colleagues. And once again, we are aiming to have it in November. API control, well, we have some kind of version, but API is mostly about documentation. It tells you what to do, how to do that, and we also migrate this. Active cluster is the big holy war we have inside, and many people say that we need that. Some people say we don't need that. We still do this, and we do this in the sense like we need to balance a big number of boxes so that they could actually work with terabytes of data. And clearly you can understand that this is not a top priority compared to what we've shown today. And obviously for the mirroring of the encrypted traffic is very important, what we need to do later. Next, site-to-site VPN is something we need to do, and we will do our best to do so. But this is what we are talking about, the goals and targets. When we're talking about this with developers, we had our just first draft of the roadmap. It's very hard to decide how much time it would take, because when you do this, you peel layer after layer. Some things you can do, some things you cannot do. We try to stay within the roadmap, and I hope we will be able to do so by the end of the year.
Обобщая все вышесказанное, вот, что у нас сейчас есть?
So generalizing everything that has been said earlier, summing up, what do we have now? So largely, we are prepared to ship in June, July to partners and distributors. So when does it start? It's 25th of May, in a week. We are prepared to start shipping, so the hardware is coming, which means that it will be able to get to the customers 1 month more down the road.
Середина октября, ну вот как-то так вот мы в эту дату целимся.
Certificate was promised to us in October to mid-October. Yeah, so we're targeting that. So we'll be the first vendor to get a certificate to new requirements. There are some satellites, so vendors who were certified according to the old requirements maintain that they will still be valid, but we decided to go for the new one as well. And we'll keep sharing how technology is built. The next session will be about APS. Maybe we will change something there. And in parallel, we would just like to invite everyone who try and make videos about our products, come to us, and we'll do it. It doesn't matter whether you want to say something good about us. Okay, so we wanted to make a next generation firewall, and I think we have succeeded. The product is good enough for us. Also, we've become a hardware vendor with a focus not only on functionality and performance, but on industrial design. So thank you for having listened to us to the end of my presentation. That's it.
У нас есть, наверное, вопросы. Сейчас мы на них посмотрим.
Perhaps we have questions.
Я просто вчера вел круглый стол про разработку.
I was...
А тут чем будут заниматься Cisco, Fortinet и прочие просто после выхода на рынок вашего НГФВ? Я надеюсь, они пойдут в новую версию, чтобы у нас
discussion about development. There were just 3 questions. What is Cisco and others going to do after you reach the market? Well, they'll start competing. So when we tried to showcase NGFW in Adjustic, we saw that geopolitics is such that if a company is buying some hardware in China or from China, they want cybersecurity to arrive from the US. But in our case, we don't buy anything from China or America. And then we come with our own firewall, and they tell us, so we've been waiting for you to arrive. It's clear that there will be locations that are clearly not loyal to us, and others are quite loyal to us. And our product is surely competitive, sometimes better than competition. Can your product be compared to Checkpoint at 40 gig? Will it become equal?
Холиварный вопрос, по каким-то параметрам мы превзошли, по каким-то параметрам мы функциональности, да, то есть по объему ее.
This is a question. We have already match them in some parameters, in others not yet. And it's a big question of where to draw the border, because the whole concept of next generation firewall is quite vague. Somebody says that you should be able to do this or that. It's clear that products were created 12 years ago. They're broader in functionality than others. And it takes a lot of time to keep up with them, catch up with them. But we need the same functionality. I mean, it's a question. So the product that we're planning to release in November, then I think it meets the basics. So industry protocols and ghost encryption. Yes, we do want to cover this as well. We're working on that. How soon we're going to do that, it's a different question, because apart from implementing the code that we'll do, there's also a certificate to receive. That's not easy. And as to the recognition of industry protocol, that will happen for sure. We have a product which has all this expertise, and we'll just borrow it from there. No questions. How to balance a user-friendly interface with expert analysis? Well, usually it's done by doing two different interfaces. If you want it to be user-friendly, it's quite hard to do it with all the expert functionality. My son is here, so why am I saying this? So it's actually I fear calling up kids on stage, because they're surely going to be stronger than their parents. And in a similar way, it's quite hard to change tables interface. So on the one hand, you sit down and think, I'll just build an interface, it'll be absolutely cool. And then you see that they go and do everything else, and everything they need in the table. So our guys know how these things work in the field. So we try to keep things running as people are used to, but to make the operations faster. So we were not replicating, so making such a thing that would offer you a button to catch everyone. We felt that the strength of the habit will lead us back. So if the PT NGFW is not extended. So all the licensing policy is such that if your license has expired, you just stop getting updates, but the equipment still works. Take a look at the equipment. We have a press room on the fourth floor, a separate room for PT and GFW, or you can get in touch with our salespeople and otherwise at the office. You mentioned Soros Matter. Well, it's not yet implemented, but it's going to be implemented within the next 1 month or two. Can one install PT NGFW on any other Russian hardware? Yes, we can. We were even thinking about trying to put it on some microwave, but then thought it was too audacious. So I think marketing will give us a couple of, when he dies
Можно ли
for the
будет получить пак на
presentation.
пилота или внутренний образ для
We won't be
тестирования? Да,
able to
можно.
get the pack
Опять же, у
back
нас путь один
for a pilot
через
for
Salesforce,
internal
пресс-логов там и
trials.
так далее.
Yes, you can go
Планируется
to
ли дизайн
Salesforce
аппаратных платформ,
and
использование пластиковых
be
влагаемых
arranged.
вставок
Do
с
you plan
стикерами
using
серийными,
plastic
сложный
inserts
длинный вопрос,
with
там, он
stickers?
вполне конкретный, и я
It's a
знаю,
long
кто спросил, который
question.
знает,
It's
что
quite
ответить,
specific.
надо тут уточнение вносить. Выдавалось,
I'll get to the author and try
выявлялись
to
ли НГФВ
get
уязвимости,
you a
если
detailed answer,
находятся они в БДУ
because
сектора?
there are some
У нас какая история? У
questions
нас
of
есть процесс
clarifications
разработки,
to
понятно,
take care.
и если какие-то уязвимости в кодоводе
We
появятся,
have
мы, естественно, будем
a
публиковать.
security development
Вот,
process,
пока в
and
проводе
if some
этот продукт
vulnerabilities
прямо так
appear
вот
in
именно на
production,
не стоит,
we're going to
естественно,
publish it.
уязвимости
But
выполнен
before the
процесс,
product
что
has been
у нас есть
implemented
усомнительно,
in
мы
production
можете знать.
with anyone, so we are not
Но если говорить
reporting
про
any
уязвимости какие-то,
vulnerabilities.
то
Of
такие,
course,
чтобы
we
там РЦ
know
ехали,
some,
что-то такое,
but we're
такого не
fixing
было.
them.
Мелочевки, как обычно.
As
Мелочевки всегда бывают. Если кто-то
to
думает,
the
что не
serious
происходит без
ones,
уязвимости, то просто надо
we
будет
never
себя
had
проверить.
any. As to the small things, well, of course, they
Можно ли в
always
названии
happen, but we're
правил и
working on that.
заметках писать на русском языке?
Can you
Присутствует
write
вход возможных
descriptions of
группировки
rules
объектов
and
правил.
notes in Russian? Is there a pack of grouping objects? Yeah, you can do. For rules, you can. For grouping, we decided not to do the grouping. So it's a question about something similar to layers, and we don't want to go in that direction. If you want to know why, we can discuss it separately.
Мы считаем, что это наиболее
It's a
интуитивный,
question
понятный,
that evokes
предсказуемый логика обработки правил.
holy wars, but I think it's a matter of principle. As to the Russian language, I think you can. Yes, I said you can assign any names you want. So the question about the cluster, how active-passive works. We didn't tell you how we started. We started it, but didn't show the packets. Yeah, it captured some products. By the way, can you put the laptop screen and display? It's not too early. Well, I closed a few things, but I can bring them up again. So the essence is that there's a cross-connection between the boxes. GAP request, GAP calls are flying between them. Okay, over to you. So, we don't use any VRRP and similar technologies.
Тот кластер, который
Ours is the cluster that we believe should be.
говорят, вот да, вот это то, что мы ожидали.
And when we explain it to others, the other customers, they say, yes, this is exactly what we expected. A virtual IP address that migrates from the active box to the passive one, and from the passive one to the active, when it happens something to the former active ones. And there's a virtual MAC address matching this virtual address. And so these are the announcements that have been captured. Let's enlarge it, and we see that from gracious through. So in order for all the network infrastructure surrounding our cluster to learn where the new with the IP address, with the SMAC address has moved, we send out GAP calls, and all the ARP tables are updated. So you don't need to set different IP addresses at the interfaces. But going into details, we're going to follow the story of the logic interface.
С логическим интерфейсом.
And you, as administrator, work with this logical device, with this logical interface as you're used to. You add it to SPF, ITSEC, you assign the IP address. I think it's as convenient, friendly, and transparent as you can imagine. There are two more questions. At which level traffic is analyzed on PT and NGFW, starting from the lowest packages upwards? And the last one is about let's go through the person saying that is pre and post rules. Pre and post rules. Yes, we do have pre and post rules. That's exactly what he's saying. Do other vendors have it? Yes.
Ну, то есть идея-то в чем? Идея в том, что когда у вас есть иерархия девайсов,
this thing exists.
и вы понимаете, что
So it's not only about one vendor. So the idea is that you have a hierarchy of offices and the devices. If you understand that this should work on all devices in the hierarchy below the one, you can set it on the top. So basically, firewalls follow two principles always. Either you allow everything except for something, or you ban everything except for something you say. And in one case, you said allow all to all, and in the other case, deny all to all. That's a good example of what rules end in all devices. You just have to think out your policy. You understand that your local admins can write this, but before this, this part of the rules will run, and yours will run after that. And this idea is
по-моему, она чуть не 8 уровней бывает, как-то так. Мы там
used by a lot of vendors. Palo Alto had it, I think. They support up to 8 levels, I think. In our case, it's a bit simple. And this is a very useful thing, because otherwise you have to do it manually in each branch office, and you tend to make errors. Yes, our structure allows creating the set of rule execution that matches the needs of the company. It can be different in every branch office, and by setting this group rules as pre and post rules, you don't need to copy them out to all the branch offices, as they will apply to all the companies. So this combination of inheritance allow you to set up the required
функционального назначения
order of execution, depending on the device, depending on location, function, anything else.